Egor Demin is a very fun prospect in the 2025 NBA draft. Took college basketball by storm at points and also was almost unnoticeable at points. Egor Demin, the international prospect, the Russian point guard, the tallest guard ever measured at the NBA Combine by positional listings. He had loud moments early in the season. Then, as I mentioned, a very, very quiet couple of months kind of changed the way he was used. Kevin Young's system at BYU, and BYU finished the season really strong with a lot of really good Egor Demin performances. Most people have him projected as a lottery pick. Let's start broadly. What do you make of Egor Demin's game?
I mean, the appeal here is the savant passing, like really good out of ball screens, really good at like delivering skip passes into guys' shooting pockets. Like he's just sees the floor so well, sees over defenders, crafty, can get to his little mid-range shot. Just he is a really fun player to watch when he's on.
He is. There are not many more players that I watched in college basketball last year that when he is cooking 10 out of 10 on his best stuff can feel as impactful. He just has his fingerprints all over a game. He's 6'9", 190 pounds. Truly, I think he can play point guard. I don't know that I'd call him a point guard because BYU sort of went back and forth between wanting him to be the point guard versus wanting him to play next to a point guard. But all in all, he played 28 minutes, started 33 games at BYU, averaged 10 and a half points, 5.5 assists to 2.9 turnovers. Did not make a bunch of threes. That's one of my questions. We'll get to strengths and
Mhm.
weaknesses in a second. In fact, let's just go there right now. What do you think Yegor's biggest strength is?
It is that passing. It's the ability to read a defense and pick it apart. Aside from that obvious one, I would add that I think he plays really, really hard, which is a little bit of an underrated trait. Sometimes, looking at a player like this with Yegor, there were the rumors of the price tag that BYU got him for coming from overseas. Even after that injury, there were questions of if he would just shut it down. Like that was something that stuck out to me every time he played. Like he crashes the glass really hard. He always seems engaged when he's off ball. There's never any pouting. There's never really sensed any of like, oh man, it's not like Richie Saunders is cooking. It's not my time to shine. I'm just gonna like pout about it or whatever. Like he's super active off the ball as well. So yeah, those are what sticks out to me most in terms of his strengths.
Yeah, I think it's the passing and just creativity is something
Hmm.
I would add. Like he can function in transition, he can function in half court settings, and he's very like he almost tries to make the highlight play, but he's one of those guys that when he makes the highlight play, it's the right play because he's
Hmm.
capable of every type of highlight play. Loves to throw lobs. He had more like hockey assists than I could even count last season, and I know they don't tally that as a stat, but he makes action happen for his team pretty much every time he's on the floor. And at his size, it's incredibly rare to see a guy with that type of skill set. From a weakness standpoint, where do you think it begins for Yegor?
It's the lack of explosiveness and the lack of strength. I think he might never have that burst, like that doesn't really strike the arc that doesn't really fit the archetype that he's in or what he profiles as. But I think he has to get stronger to make up for it because he like hardly touched the paint. He actually took more threes than twos this past year. And I just want to see him be more physical, get like add strength because he has the frame to do so. Like if you go back and watch that game against Alabama, there were times where Grant Nelson like put him in a body bag and they're about the same height. In other instances throughout the year where he try to get into the paint, kind of get like basically he would get walled off and hit that turnaround jumper, which looks nice, but I'd like him to create easy offense just a little bit better.
Yeah, I think consistency is mine. And consistency scoring wise, as you mentioned, is probably the way to frame it. But man, they had to change his role at BYU. That's like kind of the forgotten part here. It didn't just go super smoothly. They had a losing streak, and Yegor had a
Hmm.
bunch of quiet performances in a row, and they kind of went from okay, Yegor, you're our everything on ball guy to like, yeah, we're gonna take some pressure off of you and let
Hmm.
you sort of find ways to get your fingerprints on the game. And it worked, and BYU got really good. But I don't think an NBA team is drafting Yegor for that. Like if you believe in Egor Demin, I think you're drafting him because you want him to be on ball more probably than he even was at BYU. So for me, I like this note that Drew Wolin had with NBADraft.net. He only had one 20-point game in his season at BYU. He had 5 games with fewer than 5 points, and in all 5 of those games, he played 20 or more minutes. So part of that to me is like, what is his go-to scoring move? His shot is another thing I think is a weakness. Only shot 27% from three at BYU. So between that shooting and consistency, and he can almost feel passive at times, there is enough questions here. I don't know if I call them weaknesses, but it's almost like if the weaknesses were lesser or didn't exist so loudly, I think he would be a consensus top four pick in this draft,
Hmm.
but he falls into mid to late lottery as a projection because of some of those questions. Does that feel fair?
Yep, it does.
Yeah. Okay. Let's move on to our categories here. Give me one word to describe Yegor Demin.
It's a hyphenated word, passy pass.
I said unselfish. Go ahead and elaborate.
That's the Jaeger gave us passy pass.
So I feel like when we do the passy pass jokes, I feel like a lot of times there's a negative connotation to it. Because I think it started as Cart using that as a way to basically say, oh, Elijah Hawkins is just out there to rack up assist numbers and it's fake. Do you think that there's an element of that to the way Yegor passy passes?
No, I don't. I think like I just wanted to be a little silly face with it. Like I think it is his strength, and but that is why you like draft him is for the playmaking ability.
I would have accepted the answer if you said yes, though. I do think that's part of it. Is sometimes it feels like Yegor, not selfishly so, but just I don't know, is out there solely to pass. And it's like, dude, you're this 6'9" dude who can get to the rim and dunk, do more. Why
Hmm.
where is the killer instinct? So I think that's a more compelling answer than you meant it to be, but I like it. I said unselfish because I truly can't think of a player of his pedigree who clearly came from overseas to just be a 1 year guy and then a lottery pick that would have accepted a role change mid-season and had things go well. He handled that with poise, with maturity. By all accounts, everyone involved at BYU adored this kid, loved him, and still loves him. So I think you're getting a great person if you draft Yegor Demin. And even if it doesn't work out in a superstar way, he's going to handle everything really unselfishly and help your organization. Is he more likely to hit his floor or his ceiling?
I would say ceiling, and I think it goes into what you were saying, like the intangibles that he brings, the motor, and even I would say like the jump shot to me, like mechanically, I think his jump shot looks fine. It just didn't really go in. And he's still really young. Of course, I'm sure there's like a culture shock dynamic as well as just adjusting on the court, going from Russia to Provo. So yeah, I still think the best is yet to come for Yegor. And I like just kind of based on the character and what we saw this year, I think he has a good chance to hit his potential.
So I went with floor, and I don't feel great about it. I would draft Egor Demin. I don't think a team's going to make a mistake to say it, but I think the ceiling, if he hits his best case outcome, is so high that
Mhm.
it's just more likely that some of those problems rear their ugly head to his NBA career. One of them, maybe not all of them, but like, is his passiveness going to come into play? Is the shot just not going to translate? I don't know. I could see something plaguing him a little bit. I think if he hits his floor, he's still an NBA player. Like, I don't think the floor is so bad that you drop out of it, but to me, not hitting his best case scenario is more likely than him actually doing it. What is the best team fit that you see for Yegor?
The Houston Rockets.
I said the Toronto Raptors. Why do you think the Rockets?
Just going back, like they have the ninth pick, and even that seems like the range you could get him in. But moreover, like watching them against the Warriors, like the talking point that kept coming up was like how ugly their offense was, how much they slogged through it. And I think Yegor's whole thing is like he helps teammates get easy looks, and just pairing him with Alperen Sengun, I think, excuse me, if that wasn't the best pronunciation, but I think like the passing acumen, the IQ of that duo is really appealing to me. And you have a couple guys like. I know you're probably not the biggest Jalen Green guy. I don't know that I am either, but like you have that guy who's more, I guess, fit to be like a bucket getter than a creator for others or something, to where I could see Yegor fitting into that core nicely.
I might like your answer more than mine. I'm kind of in on the idea of him at Houston. I think he's such an elite connector, and Houston has a lot of really good pieces that could just kind of use connecting.
Hmm.
So he would make life easier on all of those guys if he was there. And him and Amen Thompson on a team together would be two pretty freakish players at the same time to do different things. So I like that. I went with Toronto, which is one pick away from Houston here. I think that 9-10 range is probably where we see him come off the board at. But for me, I like the idea of him on Toronto largely because I don't really love any of the Raptors' options at point guard. And I think they've got a lot of good guys that are being asked to create, maybe more
Hmm.
than they should, do it by committee. Last year, RJ Barrett, Scotty Barnes, Emmanuel Quickly all averaged 5 assists a game. And I'll be honest, I don't think of any of those guys as like very good passers. I just think they're being asked to do it.
Hmm.
So if you put Egor Demin on that team, they would have a ton of size. Those guys would be able to focus on scoring the ball a little more naturally. And I could see it working. Also, he's just an international guy. And you throw him in Toronto, I think he has some international suave to him that would just work out, you know?
Fits well for sure.
It could work. Okay, in 5 years, where is Yegor Demin?
I think he's a starter. I'm not ready to say he'll be an all-star, but I think he's definitely like a high-level starter.
Said he's a starter as well. Hard to imagine that he's anything worse than a starter, I think, even if he hits his floor. But there is some NBA All-Star upside here. I don't think he will get there in 5 years. Even if he gets there, I think it would take a little more time than that to fully get there. So we're in agreement here. We both have him as a starter. Superlative time. What is Yegor Demin the most likely to?
Most likely to have a little cutesy viral fast food moment like Giannis did when he went into the Chick-fil-A drive-through.
I said he is the most likely to unintentionally fail a lie detector test. I love your answers for this segment. Please elaborate on how Yegor will follow in Giannis's footsteps.
Okay, so if you look at Yegor's Instagram right now, he has like these kind of attempts at like doing content with like fashion and stuff, and he just comes across as like very sweet and like kind-hearted, and he has a baby face. And again, going back to the culture thing, he's coming from Moscow to Provo. If he ends up in Houston, like imagine Yegor going to a Bucky's for the first time. Like you're not that would be electric content. Yegor, if you end up in Houston, like Rockets PR, please make that happen.
Personality wise, I see the Giannis comp a lot, honestly, because Yegor did just have this joy with him at all times of like, oh, American culture, this is so cool. And I don't know. I think he's such a likable guy that has some gravity to him personality wise that's similar to Giannis. So I like that shout. I said unintentionally fail a lie detector test, largely because when their season ended at BYU, Yegor immediately started like teasing that he was going to return to BYU. And I don't even think he realized that he was doing it. Like all these reporters were like, you have a big decision coming up. And Yegor would just be like, oh, no, not big decision. I love BYU. And so everybody thought he was just coming back. And then a week later, he like scheduled this commitment, teased it out, was like, my announcement. And everyone assumed logistically it has to be BYU. And then he just sat there with a smile on his face, was like, I go pro. I love Provo. So I don't know. I just feel like he's going to have that translate at some point.
I love your answer too, by the way. Just fun player.
Fun in so many ways. And we need him on like, it's the variety lie detector test videos. Could we get like Yegor and whoever his teammate is in the NBA? It'd be great. All right, comparison time. What is your best case comparison for Yegor Demin?
I said Lonzo Ball.
Ooh, I said Ben Simmons, and I like yours.
I I consider Ben Simmons too when I was looking at this. To me, like Lonzo, I what's crazy is I was like looking at Lonzo's KenPom page before this, and that's where like the comparison runs short. Like Lonzo was a top 10 guy nationally his 1 year at UCLA in true shooting percentage and shot 41% from three with 80 makes, which I had no memory that he was like. I just remember the questions about the jumper because it looks so weird. Like I forgot how efficient and how special Lonzo was at UCLA, but that was where my comp kind of came in thinking about like, okay, question marks of Lonzo. How's the jumper translate? Can he defend? Remember, he like kind of ducked smoke with De'Aaron Fox in college, and definitely like he Fox got the better of him. And I still think there are some question marks with Yegor defensively, but Lonzo was able to grow and develop into a really good defender before the injuries. And I think with Yegor, like he's not the best athlete. I wouldn't say he's like the most fluid when it comes to like agility really like side to side, but I think he can develop that and maximize his frame. Plus you have the highlight level passing that Lonzo had. And I think the jumper will eventually become serviceable.
I like the Lonzo shout. My only pushback on it all would be I think a big part of Lonzo at the time was he did make shots. And
Yeah,
the
right.
question was like, will that last or not? With
Hmm.
Yegor, we haven't even seen that. And we're like, damn, I
Hmm.
want to see it. But it's somewhere in the middle, though, because Ben Simmons never even attempted shots, and that's where the comp goes wrong. But I think my copying Ben Simmons, by the way, the all-star Ben Simmons. Like I'm talking the good Ben Simmons. People forget he was one of the best young players in the NBA for like 4 or 5 years before something happened to his confidence. Now, Yegor may struggle with confidence issues at times too, because it seemed like that it was a thing at BYU a little bit. But to me, if he hits, he could be what Ben Simmons was supposed to be, and just be this triple double threat nightly that isn't looking to score, but is looking to impact the game in so many other ways. What is your worst case comparison for Yegor?
Alexi Shved.
I said Ben Simmons. Alexi Shved.
Yeah, maybe that was just like a cop out because they're both Russian. But Shved is one of those dudes. If you watch like his international tape, it's like, dude, this guy is a sick passer. He's 6'6", so he has some of the same size. Has had some like been a fine rotation piece in the NBA in stretches. Maybe that's too harsh to say it could go that poorly for Yegor, but yeah, that was what one of the first names that came to mind when I was just looking at like the worst possible outcome.
The Russian comp went over my head. I also am just like saddened. Like it hurts my heart to imagine Yegor being like some trivia question answer 20 years from now where we're like, oh, remember that guy? I want him to be good. He's a rootable prospect. Yeah, my best and my worst case comparison is Ben Simmons. Now, I don't think he's a one for one Ben Simmons, but I think
Mhm.
that's the range of outcomes here. Either you get the good Ben Simmons or you get the unplayable, he doesn't want to be here Ben Simmons. Yegor is always going to want to be there, but he might just have those weaknesses overcome him. He just might. He was a guy that was passive at times that it seemed infuriatingly non-understandable. Like you watch him, and when he's bad, it's like, what are you doing? And
Mhm.
the only guy that it really reminds me of truly with the God-given abilities and size that he has is Ben Simmons, where if Yegor doesn't work, it's not going to make sense why it didn't work. And again, I'm sad at the prospect of that, aren't you?
I am. I like I said, that's why I'm buying into the ceiling. I think he's going to be closer to Lonzo than Shved or bad GQ model Ben Simmons.
I hope you're right, Riley Davis. All right, that's the episode. If you want more of these, we're doing 79 of these leading up to our NBA draft live show on the night of the NBA draft. Go subscribe to the Sleepers channel so that you can see them all.